Good afternoon. This is Dr. Lana Walton, and this afternoon we're going to be talking about lifting the blanket of U.S. history. So let's celebrate America's history by taking the cover off of it. Now, if leadership in America really yearn to be great again as they maintain, why not begin with changing its public school U.S. history curriculum to one based on truth and not lies? First, they must consider the population in America's school systems. They will be meeting the needs of all students. They're relating to knowledge based of the past, social concerns of the present, our future societal needs in presenting this new curriculum. Now, normally, when children discover a hidden dark history of a parent that's been kept in the closet for years, it really makes them angry. Why does it make them angry? Because they didn't tell them. It was shut up. It was secret. But when the record is out in the open, children are more apt to forgive. They're more eager to move on. And they become motivated not to make the same mistake that the parents made. And so, in essence, America represents the parents, and America should feel the need to nurture all of its children, because the truth will help set them free. The curriculum, therefore, must be one that is transparent, valid, accurate, and culturally responsive. Our education system has an obligation to explain the real story of America's past, whether it looks good, whether it looks bad, whether it looks ugly. Students of all races, I believe, will even be more patriotic when the truth comes out. So let the students be the judge of right and wrong doings, and let the school system do its job. Just teach. The precedence must be on what actually took place in U.S. history, not adding or taking away, but giving the students a broad and sound coverage. Teachers should not expose one school of thought over the other, I do believe that, or impose their own school of thought on the students. Simply present the true story, allowing students to think and make judgments for themselves. As Paul Freire argued in his Pedagogy of the Oppressed, students should no longer be observed as empty vessels to be filled by the teacher as they did in the banking model of education. Students should no longer have to sit and passively accept information teachers merely transmit. And it looks like this is what this administration wants them to do. Since much of the issues that come up in learning about U.S. history are not completely alien to students, to keep them from dialoguing about these issues would alienate them from potential development. And whether the students realize what model or theory they are referring to when they dialogue, they will still certainly ask questions of historical happenings, such as what caused poverty for certain groups in America? Why are jobs inadequately paid for women? Why is the economic situation so unfavorable for certain groups in America? And what did America gain from having slaves? Why are there so many Spanish names of cities and states in California? I'm sorry, not states, because California is a state. Why are there so many different names of Spanish streets in California? Now, some students will give opinions that come from conflict theory that focus on society, address points of stress and conflict in society, and ways that they contribute to social change, while other students will highlight structural functional theory, also known as consensus theory, which addresses questions of social organizations and how it is maintained. They may hit on these theories without even ever learning about them. And yes, some may hit on critical race theory that has been looked down upon by our government administration. But trust me, critical race theory is not toxic. What is toxic is not telling the truth. What is toxic is telling students that they will be abused by dialoguing on critical race theory, and most certainly only talking about one viewpoint or to people who share your viewpoint is ridiculous. Perhaps students should be offered brief lessons on varying theories prior to their study of history in the class, just a brief lesson on the different theories so that they can have the liberty to pick and choose which one they believe, and perhaps have a Socratic discussion to get to the truth of things. And they can only determine the validity of ideas and issues by asking questions. Materials should be age appropriate. Nevertheless, truthful materials. For this reason, I would suggest perhaps having a culturally proficient counselor sit in on extremely sensitive sessions during middle or high school. This is just a thought. And I also recommend periodically inviting another facilitator of the same race as particular students when covering history. And there are only maybe one or two students of that same race in the class. And this is in no way about the competency of the teacher, but about helping the students feel secure and safe. And this is because I have gotten feedback from many Black students in this situation who complain of being put in an awkward position because they are expected to speak for all Blacks. They are concerned that, and they complain that it's not a good feeling being the only one of their kind in the class and having an entire class turn and look at them when touchy subjects such as slavery, civil rights, or even immigration come up. So the objective of the new U.S. history curriculum, it's not to stir up anger or violence, but to promote understanding and sensitivity for all the students towards each other. It is to provide information that will help students respect groups who look different from them because they have seen them in a different manner in what they have been shown, and as a result, develop better interpersonal as well as communication skills. An effective, culturally responsive U.S. history curriculum's objective must also be more than simply instilling common ground specifics that hype students up momentarily by saying they are more alike than different. Oh, we all bleed. We all cry. Yes, we do. We all die. We all do get sick. We all do need love. We all have dreams and goals. We all like football. We like pizza. That is a commonality. We've all had someone in our family that have passed, that had cancer. Though true to a certain extent, this outlook has yet to dismantle racial tension among students. And I believe this is because students, much like adults, quickly revert back to the same mindset of depending on false historical teachings about one another. Once the delicious chow and the cultural dancing shows are over with, if students are not acquainted with the actual timeline history of ethnic groups in America and what happened to them over so many hundreds of years, specifically African Americans, students resort to the stereotypical history that they learn about them, or they embrace the group is better than yours type thinking. Now, though the new U.S. history curriculum is not purposed to focus on race, it's not purposed to focus on class and equality as a class in itself, because it's a study all in itself. But as students' knowledge increase regarding groups coming to America, they are going to ask these type questions because their inquiring minds will want to know. Therefore, the U.S. history curriculum I believe, should begin with Anglo-Europeans from Northern and Western Europe. Factual reasons of where they came from, what was happening in their country that caused them to come to this land, and what they did after arriving. True history cannot be unveiled unless it covers Europeans' interaction and influence with Native Americans, African Americans brought to this country, Africans brought to this country, how they got here, and on to other groups that came afterwards. I believe the public schools, in addition, should hire appropriate teachers who are not only culturally proficient, but also expert in accurate and solid understanding of U.S. history and not afraid to present the truth and the facts to students about what really happened here. And of course, as I said before, a bit of political science knowledge of early America would also be an asset, but not a requirement, being that it will help students compare perspectives of power of government, institutions, and policies with what transpired in the United States in the past and how it relates to today. No doubt the questions is going to come up. The questions are going to come up. There's no escaping them. And I believe that had this country been transparent in reporting its true history in textbooks, by now, many students would have a true depiction of the why of its current relationships with certain groups and most certainly African Americans. Students will understand that what is seen in the media is much more than meets the eye, because there's indeed a historical root to the racial issues that persist in this country. You can't get around it, not by telling true history. And learning true history will pull the cover back and decontaminate the stench from the air. You can't only just tell the good stuff that affect a certain group of people. You have to tell it all. And this cleansing, I trust, will make America at least appear to have aspiration to bridge the long overdue gap with varying marginalized groups. Students really need the meat. I know we've all heard of this quote from the Bible, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free." It's in the Bible. And America purports to be a Christian nation. And if it purports to need a Christian, to be a Christian nation, it needs the healing of troubled relationships with its people because of not being truthful with its history. So, what will this valid, culturally responsive public school curriculum look like? Again, it will include the meat, the main course of the meal, pulling the cover off myths and lies taught for years and years by teachers who were required to use fake or partial truth U.S. history textbooks. Most of them didn't even know, because many white teachers most likely grew up learning the same untruths from the freshly new textbooks that their schools use, while other children read the lies from old dilapidated textbooks or either Xerox copies of the pages. Now, in my view, untruthful educational curriculum is at the forefront of students from varying ethnicities and cultures constantly at odds with one another. And consequently, they grow up as adults not knowing anything about the true history of each other that may have aided them in having an understanding and sensitivity. Therefore, validity of historical account definitely plays a paramount role in a culturally relevant historical curriculum that tells the gospel truth about what happened with every group that are now citizens in America. And if they tell the truth, all students will know where the group came from, what they did, why did they come? Did they come voluntarily? Were they invited? Were they forced? Was there an economic gain for the New World America tied to it? They will take a look back of treatment of these groups in dispersing education, healthcare, loans, employment, criminal justice from the past till now. What was the past history telling us leading up to now? They will learn about contributions of every group. Public school students should not have to wait until they enter college and take mandatory classes to fulfill their certain majors required for their certain majors in order to receive the true history of America. And unfortunately, some college majors do not require some college majors do not require such classes and lose out with the truth about American history when it comes to the U.S. Constitution, the Bills of Rights, slavery, colonization, economics, and capitalism, which is a bad word for this administration. Now, I deem that a truthful historical curriculum will live out a few final objectives, helping increase student academic performance as well as self-esteem for minority students who some teachers have tagged as low expectations. It will help promote unity, and even help white students as well understand the historical backdrop of many issues in this country towards particular groups, especially African Americans, who are the #1 target of hate crime in America, according to Human Relations Commissions. So I therefore embrace and endorse public schools being the first place in America society where students should hear the true stories of every group that make up America. And after learning the history, have a common goal in pursuing their American dream without trumping on one another or viciously fighting and doing backstabbing things, competing against one another. I endorse students learning a lesson about how to distribute fairness and justice to assure history will not repeat itself again on their watch. And only when an effective U.S. historical, cultural, responsive curriculum is implemented in the education system will schools be able to live out their proclaimed mission to provide a school environment wherein students from all socioeconomic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds can feel safe and secure. And in short, this history will accomplish a last objective of securing all of America as a result of our children, our students, sharing what they have learned so that the democratic ideals of liberty and pursuit of happiness will be lived, will be realized by all people in America, not just some. So, let us begin the truth celebration of U.S. history. I rest my case.